Hi there, my name is Zaya. Welcome. This is a video that was customized for Stacia, and I think many of you will relate. It's helping her sort out some of the congestion she has in her low back that leads to horrible low back spasms. And over the years, as she's gotten these spasms, practitioners have pointed to the fact that her psoas muscles might need some attention, both physically and psycho-emotionally. And so that's what today's practice is really about. It's a soft practice, a practice where we can connect intimately. We're going to use touch, and we're going to use movement, breath, mindfulness. And I really recommend that you pair this practice with a stronger video that I recorded a while back for Mara on stabilizing the pelvis. In that video, we use strength to help connect with this area, and we work on coordination, which is really important for clearing and healing low back issues. So I'm going to dive into a bit of the anatomy and help make that bridge between how the physical and emotional are connected in this case. And then we'll dive into the practices. So if this is your second time watching this video, feel free to skip forward a couple minutes past the anatomy lesson and go straight to the practice. So this book is called The Key Muscles of Yoga by Ray Long, and it's a great anatomy book for people who do movement with amazing illustrations. And so I just want to give you a visual of the psoas muscle, and from here on out I'm going to be calling it the iliopsoas. So here's the psoas muscles, these long ones here, and the iliopsoas includes this fan of muscles that's on the inside of the pelvic bowl. And they join up and sort of become one at the bottom where they connect into the legs. Now you'll notice, so from here on out, we'll just call it iliopsoas to include them both because they really do just sort of work as one. So you'll notice that the iliopsoas connects the spine. This is the low back spine. This is the rib cage. The spine to the legs. And they're the only muscles that do that. Every other muscle just sort of connects spine to hip or hip to legs. So they're these big bridges. So if you put your hands on your rib cage and you find your bottom rib and then walk your fingers back along that ridge line to your spine, you'll find that's where the top of the iliopsoas connects. And your fingers are on the back of the spine, which we can't see in this picture. So if you were to go a little off to the side and to the front of the spine, which you can't access from your back, but if you just sort of imagine going a little off to the side and towards the front, that's where it connects. It's a little bit to the front and to the side. And it has attachment points all along the low back spine, along the front and sides. And that makes it a muscle that when it contracts, it does all this fine tuning of movement in the low back spine. And so rather than doing one big dramatic movement, like you might think of the biceps brachii in your arm helping with, a strong elbow flexion, let's say. But rather it being pretty cut and dry like that, this is less cut and dry. It's all of these little attachment points that create this fine-tuned movement. And so in our quadruped mammal friends, our mammal friends who walk on all fours, their iliopsoas really strongly brings them into a flex position, brings their thigh towards their belly. But in us, it's less about that. It's more about spinal stabilization and about transmitting the forces of the upper body down towards the legs and bringing whatever forces are coming up through the feet and the legs up into the upper body. So above here, inside your rib cage, is your diaphragm muscle. This is your breathing muscle. And you can think of it as being like an open umbrella inside of your diaphragm. And it connects all the way along the inner rim of the rib cage. And at the back, it connects right where the iliopsoas drops off. And I like to think of the psoas, the iliopsoas and the diaphragm like holding hands there. Their connective tissue is continuous. And so whatever the status of your breath is, your diaphragm muscle, which controls your breath, whatever the status of your breath is impacting the status of your iliopsoas, which means it's impacting how you're sort of moving through the world. And vice versa, how you're moving through the world is impacting your breath. And we know that the status of our breath really tells us something about the status of our nervous system. If we feel relaxed and at ease, or if we feel scared or excited, our breath will show up really differently. So if you have big time unprocessed emotions from trauma or big experiences, that's going to certainly get stored in your breathing and in your iliopsoas muscles. And so this is where we can do some really soft, intimate tending to this part of your body, using the breath, using some intuitive movement, using massage to help release not only the physical tensions, but the emotional tensions that go along with it. I'm going to put down the book. We'll put our hands on our bodies just to orient to where this muscle group is. So placing your hands on your ribs and going just down to the soft part of your belly off the ribs. So what you're touching here is first your skin, and then past that, just below that, is your adipose layer, so your fatty tissues. And then past that is your abdominal core, so your six-pack muscle and your obliques. It's like a little tubing. And inside that is your digestive organs up high, and a little lower is your organs of elimination and your reproductive organs. Behind all of that lives your iliopsoas muscles. And so I think of them as like creating the floor of the nest to all of this action that's here, to your reproductive, elimination, and digestive action. And in terms of connective tissue, there's a lot of communication between the state of your viscera, all of those guts, and the state of your nervous system, which is really strongly, we call this the second brain, and the state of the iliopsoas muscles. So you can think of the iliopsoas muscles as being like the floor of the nest to hold all of this. And this is also why our emotions sometimes get stored right here in our belly and in these muscles, and we can end up having some intense back issues when we haven't resolved the tension that's being held there. So it can either be held as tension, right, like chronic holding, or it can be like dissociating, so not connected, discoordinated, not able to really tune into this place and have it be supple and juicy and responsive. I am teaching this class while pregnant, so you might notice I'm a little out of breath, and also I'm going to be really cautious about how I work this area because I've also got, in that little map I just showed you, a little baby in here too, and I don't want to squish them. And if you're pregnant, I'd say skip this practice, and if you need this kind of care, go to a professional to give you this kind of care, because it's just a little too vulnerable to do for yourself if you're not a trained body worker. If you aren't pregnant, then you can certainly do this practice, but I just want you to know this is a very vulnerable place to be digging around in, and so use your good awareness after doing this practice once. Notice its impact and see if continuing the practice feels right to you. So as far as props go, this is kind of interesting. I just started to explore this tool recently, a wooden spoon, a good-sized kitchen rag or hand towel, and a rubber band, and you just kind of fold that around and make a soft, broad little tool here, and we'll use this as our massager. Now, before I discovered this little trick, I used my own hands, and you can definitely do that, but that's kind of strenuous on the hands. So we're going to use a spoon today if you want to join me, and it'll just be applying pressure like this. We'll be lying down when we do it. I'm just in my living room because I know that Stacia doesn't have like a full yoga prop setup at home. And so just create a cozy little place for you to practice on. You might put down a nice blanket on the ground. I put down some nice sheepskins. Think about creating the sweet nest of your practice, similar to how we're trying to cultivate the sweet nest of your center. So I have a couple of pillows here, and I'm using a dining room chair. You'll want a chair, hopefully one that's sort of solid with a back to it, but that you can move to, so not like your biggest accent chair. I just have a blanket on here to keep it soft. I would say have a blanket nearby. You'll want that regardless if you use it here or not. Okay, I think that's everything. Oh, one more thing. You'll want some big books or some yoga blocks eventually to stand on. So make sure you've got something like that. All right, so we are going to begin laying down on our backs. I like to have a pillow under my head. I'm most comfortable that way. You're going to take your spoon if you're using one, your padded spoon, have it nearby, and then go ahead and scooch up real close to your chair and bring your calves, your shins on top of the seat and lie back. And just let your body settle into the floor. Some days you come down to the floor and it's like there's so much sensation in the spine, the low back, the hips, as the bones settle. So let's just let there be some space here for that process to happen, to allow our bodies to settle into gravity and into the support of the earth below us. Then place your hands on your belly. And see if you can soften the muscles of your face, soften your jaw. Maybe swallow a few times and see if you can soften your throat. You might need to make a few funny faces to release the tension from your face and head. And then if it's comfortable to breathe in and out through the nose, go ahead and close your mouth and do that. Otherwise, breathe in and out through the mouth if that's more accessible. And we're going to take slow breaths. And as you slowly breathe in, you can feel how your belly gradually broadens underneath your hands. And then slowly exhale, feeling your belly gather in and drop towards the floor. So seeing if you can take the rushing out of the breath. And noticing those places in the breath cycle that you sort of yank the breath in or push the breath out. And see if you can just gradually begin to smooth those jagged edges out. And as you do this, hopefully the effort of breathing moves out of the neck and chest and more into the ribs themselves. And let's all exhale together. And then inhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold the breath. And exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And hold. And then inhale 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Exhale 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. A few more breaths like that. Feel free to make them shorter or longer. And see if you can really linger in all 4 parts. Inhale, pause, exhale, pause. In this way, you are using the breath to touch into the Psoas, giving a gentle massage to the upper bits of the muscle where they connect with the diaphragm. And you're supporting your nervous system by coming into a balanced place between rest and activation. And this in turn lets the psoas know that it can be supple, it can be present and awake, it can be available, but it doesn't have to be on overdrive, tense, compensating, mobilized. Let's take another round or two just like this. And if you feel called to, you might exhale out the mouth, maybe even with a little sigh. Releasing with sound. All right, let's start with a little massage using our hands. So locate your belly button and then walk your fingertips down a little bit towards your pubic bone so that you're kind of right over your bladder. If you have a uterus, kind of right over your uterus. And just apply a little bit of pressure with your fingertips and start to tiptoe your fingertips over to the right, towards your right hip bone. And you can walk your fingertips slowly and apply as much depth and pressure as feels good. And then we're gonna, once we get to the right side, we're gonna walk up the right side of the belly towards the right low ribs, staying in the soft part of our center. Once you feel like you're right at the border of the ribs, you're gonna walk your fingertips to the left across the top of your stomach. Over to the upper left-hand corner of your belly where your ribs and belly meet. And then we're going to walk down slowly towards the left hip point. And as you do this little walkabout, you might start to feel digestion begin to happen, some gurgling or gas moving. And you also might start to feel some release in your low back. Once you get to your left hip point, walk back to the center just below your belly button, and take another walk around in the same way. If instead of doing tippy toe type movements in your fingers, you can do circles, little circles in place, and then scooting over and doing other little circles. And on the second round, you might feel like you can go a little bit deeper. And right now we're sort of saying hello to all of the viscera, the digestive organs, and the connective tissue that binds them, and seeing if we can create some softening and some allowance there so that in a moment we can go even deeper past them and connect with the psoas more directly, the iliopsoas more directly. To end this belly massage, let's just bring our hands in a really broad way onto our stomach and do some kneading. And so my hands are just going to be sort of doing this motion. And when I wasn't pregnant, and I will suggest you do this if you aren't pregnant here, I really loved gathering up all of the tissue of the belly. So really take all the skin and all of the fat, gather it up, and then just sort of stretch your belly up towards the ceiling. It won't move up much, but give a little wiggle as you draw up, and then let it drop, and do that a few times. I think about like a mama cat holding onto the back of a baby cat's neck and pulling, grabbing them up to carry them, and pulling it up at the scruff of the neck and letting it drop. Good. And then just make nice with your belly. So some nice, just gentle rubbing. And take a breath to feel that. All right. We're going to take our spoon, and you're going to take your body a little bit, your lower body a little bit to the left, so that your left leg comes onto the ground, and you can move your hips a little to the left. Bring your left foot down with your left knee bent. We're going to work on the left iliopsoas first. So it's going to be on the left side of your belly, left side of your belly button. And we're going to target the soft part. So going past the viscera deep down and making our way from just below the ribs down to the pelvis. So take your soft spoon and place it at the upper portion here, just below the ribs. And I just put my hand on top and apply some pressure. Now, you don't need to actually touch your iliopsoas with the spoon, so don't worry about like getting to the floor. But even if you just apply some gradual deepening pressure, you'll feel perhaps, even if it's just energetic, but you'll feel sort of the ripple effect of this pressure down deep, deep, deep into your low back. Keep the pressure there and let your left knee just swing out to the side like a butterflying open and coming back in. And do that a few times. Good. And then we'll take the spoon and bring it down towards the hip now, so a little lower. We're still in the soft part of the belly. Bringing your hands to the top of the spoon to apply pressure downwards, and we're going to go really gradual with the pressure. If you go sudden and fast with pressure in your belly, it's like all of your viscera respond and kind of everything tenses up. But if you go soft, gradually apply pressure, your viscera, your guts just sort of make space and you can get to deeper layers. And then drop your knee out to the side and back up. Good. Now you can put your spoon anywhere that felt good, or maybe even a third position here in the soft part. And we're going to do some leg movements. So pin down the psoas with the spoon, and then go ahead and drop your knee out to the side. And then extend your left foot forward out in front of you so your left knee straightens, and you're sort of gliding on the pinky edge of your foot. And then rotate your leg to a neutral position so your kneecap and toes are pointing towards the ceiling. And then turn your leg in so kneecap and toes are facing towards the right, and bend your left knee coming back to the starting position, and do another circle or two like that with your leg. Good. And then stepping on your left foot here, we're going to take the spoon, and the action is doing a little bit of a deepening and then a dragging upwards. That's what we'll do in our belly on the left side. And we're going to add a leg movement with it. So deepen down, nice and easy. And then as your heel drives forward and you straighten your leg, scoop your spoon. And let's do that again. Release the spoon, come back up. Draw the spoon down. Extend your leg and scoop the spoon. So you get a little bit of a stretching along the front of your left hip. And let's do that one more time. Good, and release the spoon. Let's take the spoon off to the side, hug the left knee in towards your chest. And then just stir your knee with one of your hands so you get some good circles. Try to relax the muscles of your legs, relax your ankle. And we'll do that massage to the other side. So bring your legs to the right of the chair, bring your hips to the right, and take your right foot to the ground. Spoon comes down to the right side of your belly, towards the upper portion of the iliopsoas, where just below the ribs on the right side. Apply some pressure to the spoon. And remember, beautiful, deep body work can happen with very little pressure. So don't be competitive with yourself. It's not like the deeper you go, the more you heal. The more you listen to yourself, the more you heal. So you're just listening, paying attention, and responding. Once you find a good depth, bring your right knee out to the side, butterflying the thigh open, and then bring your right knee back up. And we'll do that a couple more times. Good, and then we'll take the spoon down towards the pelvis, still on the soft part of the belly. Find a depth here. And then let the knee come out and in. Great. And now find some place along that trajectory, along that line that feels like it wants some pressure. Apply pressure there. And we'll do those leg circles. So take the right knee out to the side. Straighten your right leg by dragging your foot along its pinky edge out in front of you. roll your leg through neutral position and then all the way internally, which means your kneecap and toes are going to turn to the left. And then drag your foot back up and stand on your foot so your knee is pointing straight up towards the ceiling, and continue that circle a few more times. Okay, and then from here, we're going to do those little spoon scoops. So you're going to just apply pressure down, and then as your leg straightens, the spoon is going to go up your belly like that. So I like to start a little bit lower down for this, for this one. Still in the soft of the belly, not on any pelvic bones. Deepen the spoon to whatever depth you want to start with. And then slowly straighten your right leg. And as you do, see about dragging the spoon up towards your ribs. And you're not just moving the spoon upward, you're doing that little U shape, and that'll help sort of drag the tissues up along the front of the right side of your hip and get some nice release in the bottom part of your iliopsoas. Let's do that 1 or 2 more times. Great. And we'll release that. You can take away the spoon because we will not be using it anymore. Hug your knee towards your chest and do little circles here. Good. And then I just want you to put your feet on the ground, both feet on the ground, either side of the chair, and straighten out your legs out in front of you. And if the chair's in the way, just sort of push with your feet so that you've got some space here. Laying flat on the ground. You might even get rid of the pillow that's under your head and just let yourself really find the earth with the back of your body. And then start to go like this with your feet. So you're going to pump, sort of like you're pumping the brakes with your feet, and your heels are digging into the ground, and everything else in your body is soft. So you're just sort of softly being jostled or shaken. You can even let your head wobble around. And as your ankles and feet do all of the work, your belly can soften. You might start to feel sloshing in your belly. You might make some noise with your exhale breath. And then go ahead and bring that to a close. Come to stillness and simply feel. And allow whatever wants to happen next to emerge. That might be a release of emotion. It might be stillness. It might be movement. At this point in the practice, I often feel like doing spinal twists, but you just listen to what wants to happen in your body and respond. And eventually, you'll find your way up. I recommend rolling to one side and letting your arms help yourself up. And we're going to still use the chair. So we'll want to face the chair here. If you don't have something soft under you, place a blanket underneath your shins and knees. And just take a moment to sit here. If this is an uncomfortable seat, take your pillow and put it between your thighs and your calves. Just notice how your spine feels. And you can imagine the two psoas muscles, iliopsoas muscles on either side of the low back spine, acting like these two supple waterfalls, cascading down the spine and into the pool of your pelvic bowl. And you can allow the sort of weightiness of that pool to ground you in your seat. And then without yanking at all, without a lot of rigidity, can you take the two highest points of the iliopsoas, right where they connect in with the diaphragm muscle? And can you just encourage them to lift skywards a little bit so that your waterfalls become a little bit longer? And then breathing, softening your shoulders. Okay, we're going to make our way into cat-cow. And you can do cat-cow on the chair if you have any wrist issues, or you can just come into a tabletop position. And what I want us to think about are the two ends of the iliopsoas. So you've got the upper end here and the lower end at your groin. So as you come into a back bend, lifting the tail towards the sky, lifting your head towards the sky, and you're stretching your belly, you can think about lengthening the two ends apart from each other. And take a few breaths here, lengthening. And then as you round your spine, drawing your spinal column up towards the ceiling, you can tuck your tail, tuck your chin, and think about bringing the two points of your psoas, your iliopsoas, closer together. And take a few deep breaths into the low back. And then do a few more. You might move your breath with your movement, inhaling as you back bend and exhaling as you round the spine. And then we'll move into a child's pose. Let's bring the knees a little bit further apart and the big toes together. And then bring the hips back. And you can think about the lowest part of the iliopsoas really sinking back towards the heels. And then trying to stretch the top part forward and down towards the earth as you drop your head towards the floor. If reaching the floor isn't comfortable, just stack your fists underneath your forehead. And let's take a few deep breaths, imagining that as you breathe, the breath is moving along these two waterfalls of the iliopsoas. And sort of bringing flow and movement along either side of your low back spine and filling and replenishing your pelvic bowl. You might feel the sort of pulsation of the breath living in your pelvic bowl. One more round of breath here. And then we'll rise up. And we'll come into a lunging series using the chair. So go ahead and place your left knee on the ground. Make sure it's padded so that you're comfortable. And we'll step the right foot to the outside of the chair. And let's begin with our hip right over the knee. And then from here, we're going to do cat-cow again. We're going to tuck the tail, tuck the chin, try to bring the 2 points of the psoas closer together. And then we're going to unfurl and untuck the tail, untuck the chin, and try to stretch the psoas. We'll do that one more time. Good. Now on your next exhale, round again. So you're going to tuck the tail very strongly. And you're thinking about scooping the low belly in and up. And what we're going to do is we're going to unfurl the chest, but keep the scoop in the low belly, keep the tuck of the tail. Okay, so this is tucking under, this is lifting up. And you might feel some opening through the front of the left hip. From here, you can hold onto your chair with one hand, your left hand, as your right arm swings back. Twisting. Looking over that right hand. And then go ahead and unwind. Then we're going to take our right forearm onto the thigh or down onto the chair, whatever is comfortable here for you. And we're going to reach the left arm up and over and side bend over to the right. We're still doing a slight tuck of the tail here. Ooh. And then I encourage you to play with the angle. So some of you will be pointed a little bit more chest down. Some of you will be pointed a little bit more chest up. And you can just explore with how that unwinds tension across the front of your hip and deep into your core, which is that psoas stretch sensation. Good. And then go ahead and rise up. Let's recommit to that tail tuck. So we're going to tuck the tail under, lift the chest, reach the arms up now. And you can either stay here uplifted, or you can bend into the right knee and lift towards the sky, letting the hips come towards the chair. If you want some stability, you can place your hands on the seat of the chair and curl your chest back. See if a back bend feels good in your body. If not, stay up and upright. Good. And then go ahead and come on out of that. We're going to lean onto the the chair seat, and then we're going to straighten the right leg out, and you can flex your foot with your toes up towards the ceiling. And this is like a half split. And we're just going to wag the tail a little bit side to side. Good. And then come on out of this. You can come up, bring the right knee to the ground, and we're going to take that to the other side. Left leg comes up. Your hip is over the back knee, and we're going to tuck the tail. Tuck the chin, and then we're going to untuck, lengthen the belly. One more full round. And now we're going to tuck, but lift the chest up. And from here, you can keep your right hand on the seat of the chair and take your left arm back for a twist. And unwind. Keeping the tuck of the tail, bring your left forearm down to your thigh or to the chair and reach your right arm over into a side bend. And you can play with little micro movements as you come into different angles of the stretch and unwind different parts of the iliopsoas muscles. And then go ahead and rise up. Reinvigorate that tuck of the tail. Lift your arms up. Lift your chest. Stay here, or if you'd like, you can bend into your left knee a little bit more. You can use your hands on the chair or keep reaching up towards the ceiling as you lift your chest. Maybe find a little back bend. See if you can stay soft in your jaw and neck. And then go ahead and bring the hips back over the back knee. Bring your forearms down to the chair. Straighten your left leg. You can flex your foot so your toes come up towards the ceiling. Try to untuck your tail now and just wag side to side with your bottom. Good. And then from here, rise up. Take your left knee down and then go ahead and just take a comfortable seat. If sitting back on your heels is fine, that's good. Cross leg, or even just sitting up into your chair. And see if you can feel that soft, supple sort of waterfall on either side of your low back spine, pooling into your pelvic bowl, grounding you. Okay, we are going to do a standing exercise, and this is where you'll take your stack of books. If you've got yoga blocks, you can stand on that. You're only going to see my lower half of my body here because I'll be standing tall, and you can use the back of your chair or a wall to help stabilize you. So standing up, so I have a little extra challenge here because my surface is soft. Having a hard book or blocks would be a little easier. What we're going to do is just stand on the left leg and let the right leg dangle down. Dangle down. And what you can try to imagine is that your psoas muscle does all of this work to connect the spine via the pelvis to the thigh bone. And so we're just trying to invite the bottom of the psoas to release and let go as we swing our leg. See if you can have this swinging happen right at the hip joint as opposed to staying stiff there and just doing your knee. And this can stay sort of small like this, or if you have a lot of space and if you're feeling called to, you can really swing your leg up and down, super high. Probably you're feeling some heat in the outer left hip as your hip stabilizes for you to swing in this way. So breathing through that heat, trying to keep that hip hugging in rather than slumping out to the side. Loose, loose, loose through the right leg. Good. Let's just take a few more moments here. And come off of your prop and just stand on both legs and feel. All right, let's go to the other side. Standing on your right leg. Making sure that that right hip stays hugged in, not slouched out to the side. And here we go, swing, swing, swing. Really try to soften through your hip joint. Breathing deeply. Good. And then let's come down, come into standing. Feet about parallel underneath your hips. Find your mountain pose. Inviting weight equally in your feet from side to side, but also from front to back. And seeing if in standing you can feel like the 2 points of your iliopsoas, the lower points by your groin and the upper points by your rib cage, see if they can lengthen away from each other subtly so that your spine grows a little longer without a lot of yanking or hoisting up. Good. And from here, we'll make our way back to the ground. As you come down to the ground, you can move the chair away unless you think at the end when you rest, you like having your feet up on the chair, in which case you'll keep it close by. And then you're just going to lay flat on your back. And I have my pillows and blankets nearby so that when it comes to rest, I can just get really cozy with those things. So we're going to lay down on our backs and we're going to do pelvic tilting, which is sort of like cat-cow while we're lying down. And so you can watch me a few times if you're new to this, or just dive right in. So our knees are bent, our feet are close to our hips, and we're just going to rock the pelvis forward. And when we do that, we're stretching the belly. And we're taking the 2 points of the psoas further away from each other. And then we're going to press the low back against the ground, tuck the tail a little bit, and round the spine so that we feel a sense of gathering in of the belly. Right, inhale, come into a little mini back bend here. And exhale, come into a little rounded spine. And this is really happening from a rocking in the pelvis forward and back. The back of the pelvis, the sacrum, is rolling against the ground. You're not lifting your hips away from the floor. And let's really try to coordinate the breath. So as you inhale, slowly rock your pelvis forward and stretch your belly, lifting the low back away from the ground. And as you exhale, slowly press your low back to the ground, tuck the tail, and feel your belly gather in. We're going to add bridges to this. So the next time you exhale and you curl your tailbone and flatten your back against the ground, I want you to start to peel your hips off of the floor and take one vertebra at a time, starting from the low back, working your way up towards your shoulders, up off of the floor. So you're peeling away from the ground. We're slowly moving. And then we're going to rewind. So lower one vertebra at a time. And this is like really rounding the back so that each vertebra has its own turn. Hollowing the belly as you come down towards the lower back. That tail is very tucked. And then once your pelvis comes to the ground, go ahead and untuck your tail and stretch out your belly. Lift your low back away from the floor. Find a big inhale breath. And then exhale, rock your pelvis so that your low back presses against the ground and your tail tucks. And curl up again into your bridge, one vertebra at a time. And once you get to the height of your bridge, we'll just slowly unfurl onto the ground, one vertebra at a time. Rocking your pelvis forward to stretch your belly at the very end, untucking the tail, lifting the low back away from the ground. And let's do that one more time. Curling the tailbone up and peeling the spine away from the floor into bridge pose. And slowly laying your spine back down, one vertebra at a time. Rocking your pelvis forward, stretching your belly. Good. And then finding neutral, somewhere between the two extremes. Place your hands on your belly and return to that belly breath. Notice what you need next, whether that's emotional or physical. And let your body have it. Maybe it's hugging knees to chest or coming into a twist. Maybe it's just stretching your body in kind of creative ways or letting out some big sighs, maybe shaking your limbs. Give yourself permission to unwind in any old way that feels good and feels right in this moment, even if it's a different kind of unwinding than you would expect or that you're used to. This is how our body lets go of some of that emotion that gets stored up. It's just this creative, intuitive movement or stillness. And eventually we'll come into a restful position, placing pillows under your head if you need them or underneath your thighs for support. Maybe placing a blanket underneath your belly, over your belly for warmth. Be generous with your comfort. This might mean coming into a seat or a standing position if lying down doesn't feel right. And from here, we'll invite the psoas muscles, the iliopsoas muscles, to breathe along with our lungs. You can imagine that they're inhaling and filling, and that they're exhaling, emptying, and that with each breath you're inviting nutrients in and also inviting whatever is old or doesn't need to be held on anymore to come out. And as your iliopsoas muscles breathe in this way, they're laying down a kind of foundation for the rest of you, for your viscera, your organs, for your nervous system, for the soft center of you, for how you move through the world. They're creating the conditions of being able to take in what's good and learning how to let go of that which is used up, is no longer serving you. And letting there be flow here in your system, letting there be that pulsation of flow, of vitality, moving out the stagnation, moving out the tension and the places where we feel frozen and dissociated, and bringing back that really foundational pulsation of life, the breath, the heartbeat, the expansion and the contraction. We'll be here in quiet for a couple of minutes so that you can feel into all of this and how it's showing up today. And I'll call you back with the sound of my voice. And slowly roll your head side to side, lazily rocking. And slowly spread through your hands and fingers and through your toes and feet until your breath naturally deepens into a yawn or a sigh, and you start to stretch out into a full body stretch. And we're going to try to come up mindfully. We want to keep the psoas muscles supple and soft, and keep our bodies from overly anticipating urgency or emergency, right? Because part of healing is coming back to a sense of safety in the body. So to honor that, we're going to roll to one side if you're lying down. If you're sitting or standing, you're just going to keep gently moving, animating your body. And once you've rolled to one side, you can press into your hands. So you're just helping yourself up gently rather than hoisting yourself up. Finding a comfortable seat. I usually like to sit on a folded blanket or a cushion to help lengthen the spine. And, after such a deep psoas, a low back and pelvic focus, I've, in my own body, tend to feel a lot of shifting happening in the shoulders and neck and upper back. And these two places are so related. So perhaps you're feeling that. And if you have a couple minutes, you might just tend to that a little bit through some stretching and touch and exploration. But for the purposes of our time together, this is the closing. I like to close with intention, placing one hand on your belly, one hand on your chest, or anywhere else sacred to you. Bowing your head to the wisdom of your body, and seeing if there's any clarity or any sensation that you really want to hold on to or highlight as you close your practice and move into the rest of your day. And bringing the palms together, bowing in gratitude for the lineages that inform this practice. And today we're really drawing on the fields of anatomy and somatics, somatic psychology, and also yoga asana. So bowing in gratitude for these wisdom streams, for the body work wisdom streams that inform today's practice, and also for anything else that you feel grateful for. What a wonderful way to heal, orient to what's going well in your life right in this moment, even if it's something really simple. When we're having a really tough time, it can just be being gracious for the color of your shirt that you're wearing that you like. Letting that positivity come in. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.